A question that often gets asked, especially when it comes to the existence of God or not, is what is the meaning of life? And sadly, many people do not have the answer to this question. Some even say that there is no meaning to life, that life is meaningless. However, I do still think that most people think that there is a meaning out there. There is something to search for, something that is worthy to be prioritized. And so I'll ask you the question: what is worth living for? What is worth prioritizing in your life? What is worth spending your every waking moment trying to live out? What belief system? Why is something true and something wrong? Let's look at happiness. A lot of people seek happiness and they prioritize trying to be happy. Their every action, or at least a lot of their actions, are focused on their desires, their happiness, and their joy. The issue with this is that happiness isn't permanent, and often seeking happiness is going to lead to a less happy life, it turns out. Seeking instant gratification, especially when at the expense of others, is harmful to the world. So, what is worth living for? Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's your wife or your husband. Maybe it's your children. Maybe your great grandchildren. But these people, they're mortal human beings. And while it's great and it's good to love your family and to love your children and to love your wife, they're not going to be here forever. And neither are you. Humans seem to want to give value to things that are not permanent. It seems that whenever we are used to seeing something and we think that it's going to be here forever, we seem to ignore it and give it less value. However, if there is something that may even be of less value in the sense of money, but it's not going to be here later, that seems to have more value. It's prioritized over the other thing, which in some cases, I'm sure this makes sense. But when it comes to what you're living for, why is something temporary prioritized over what's permanent? And so you've got to ask yourself, why live for something that isn't permanent? Why live for something that's going to disappear? Maybe even before you. So look around at everything you see. The people you meet, the things you see, the things you eat, the things you do. And ask yourself, what's permanent? There's this idea that in billions of years from now, there's going to be a heat death of the universe. I think that people believe the universe is going to become so hot that no matter can form anymore. And so if that's true, and maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe all the things you see one day are no longer going to exist. And even if they outlive you, they're still not permanent. So is nothing permanent? Is nothing worth living for? Or are we supposed to live for, or are our only options to live for things that aren't permanent? But I think there's one thing, maybe a few things that are permanent. The first, and the thing that I think that everybody should be living for, is God. I think if God is real, everything is real. But if God isn't real, then what is real? Because if God's not real, we aren't made in His image. In fact, we weren't even made with purpose at all. We were basically complete accidents. Now there's the argument that evolution and the gravity and all these things aren't accidents, and I see the reasoning behind that, but I think people still realize this. We are just blobs of matter and energy. So whether it's an accident or it's guided by evolution and by the gravity of planets and matter, either way we're still made with no purpose. Life has no meaning. But you can't live that out because people still believe that they have meaning. Why do they believe that they have meaning? It's as simple as getting out of bed in the morning. Why get out of bed? Why not sleep in? Who cares about waking up and going to work and earning money? You could say, okay, well, if I don't work, I don't get paid. If I don't get paid, I'm homeless. And if I'm homeless, then maybe I don't have enough food. Maybe I starve. But if life's meaningless, then who cares? So why get up in the morning? Why go to work? Why eat? Why do anything at all if God's not real? And that's why I think it's either extremely difficult or maybe even impossible to actually authentically be an atheist with no contradictions, without being a hypocrite at all. I think atheism might be impossible if you take it to its absolute extreme, which might just be its absolute truth. And that, I think, is the strongest piece of evidence that I have for the existence of God. If you disagree, you can write it down in the comments or you can keep it to yourself. I would love to talk to other people about their opinions and maybe even about facts, because I am still young and I am not necessarily trying to prove myself right, but I am trying to teach the truth to people around me.